All right, my lovely. This is Christina with Common Eye Psychic LLC here on Universal Spirit Podcast, and I have a special guest today. I am talking with the Madam Pamita. Madam Pamita,
It's so great to see you. It's so great to be here. I am so excited for our conversation. This is awesome.
I'm
So
so glad you.
saying I'm super excited to be here to have this conversation with you, to talk about witchcraft, to talk about magic, to talk about how we got to where we got to with our magic, and share resources and all kinds of things. So yeah, let the conversation begin.
Well, we've already been speaking for what 20 some minutes before we started recording, talking about everything. Um, but getting back to what I was saying before, or asking you before, like I want to know when it clicked for you, when you said, "This is just who I am. I know I'm tapped in to the universe, to the other verse or other world," right? I mean, how old were you? What was going on? Like, how did you feel? Like, I want to know from you specifically because the things that I like, the resources, the books, the tarot cards, the classes, I consider you to be a magical genius. Okay, art, creativity. So, I mean, what day? No, really, what day was it?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I don't think there is, in my journey, I'm not a Capricorn, I'm a Cancer. I flow around like a windy river. So I mean, part of it was, if I, share that I grew up in a magical household. We were
Okay.
Catholic magic. It wasn't Wicca, it wasn't witchcraft or any pagan thing. It wasn't a pagan thing, but we did do magic in my house, but it was Catholic magic. So I often say, like, the first candle magic I did was when I was a toddler in the church, making a wish and lighting a candle in the church. That is candle magic. It's simple candle magic. And you're asking, the saints and Jesus and Mary and whoever to help you, but you are doing candle magic, right? Catholic candle magic. My mom was Ukrainian American. She was born here. My grandparents were born in Ukraine. So in Ukraine, there's a unique thing that we don't really have, especially in the culture now, for sure not in the culture now, which is that folk magic could coexist with more structured religion, because the peasants, who my grandparents did not read or write, they grew up on farms, they probably didn't have any education or little education, but that doesn't mean they were stupid. They were very smart, right? But they're not book smart, right? They're not like, go to college smart. So I think in that culture, you can be doing these pagan rituals as long as you're inviting Jesus and Mary and God the Father and the Holy Spirit or whoever to the table, right? So this was allowed. The church couldn't stop it from happening. Now, you also have to understand, I'm an elder. I'm going to be 60 this year.
Really?
So, yeah. So
Good
back
for
in
your
my,
age.
thank you. So back in my day, we didn't have TikTok. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have the internet. We barely had any books that were out there. So to find anything, you really had to work very hard. And that means anything. I mean, even when I think about in my teenage years, listening to music, we had the radio and you bought records. But what if you wanted something that was a little offbeat, or a little bit not the popular music that was being played on the radio? Well, you found that out through word of mouth. And the same thing with magic. We found things out when I really began to study magic, like really began to study magic. I was in my 20s, because I found a coven of women that I could study with, and we learned from each other. Now, by that time, which is the 80s, we had some books and things that were available. I also had the way to get those books. But before that time, when I was young, I'd go to the library and I would look for anything I could find. Now, this is the 1970s, right? 1970s, lots of things about ESP, you know, extrasensory perception, UFOs, Bigfoot, pyramid power. I mean, we had all these, you know, real, definitely esoteric spiritual things, but in the library, you're not going to find a book on Wicca. I lived in Santa Monica Library, except at my junior high school library, we had some books by a witch named Sybil Leek. There were 3 books in that library. And I bless my junior high school librarian who brought those books in, because those books were about traditional witchcraft. She was a writer in the 60s and 70s. And so there were these little things little breadcrumbs that I could find, but there was no cohesive thing that I could practice until I was in my 20s, because I didn't have anybody to learn from. I was just picking up a little tidbit here, reading a book here. That's it. Anything that was fortune telling, anything that was astrology, I was on it. And those things you could find. We used to have, you know, fortune telling cards that were like Lenormand cards. You know, there's the very inappropriately named Gypsy Witch deck that is still around. You can still get it, but that's like a Lenormand deck. And I remember my very first tarot deck that I ever saw, my mom bought for me. I was 10 years old. We were in Salem because I live in Los Angeles, but my sister had moved to Boston. We were visiting my older sister in Boston. I was 10 years old. And we went to Salem, and we went to a witch store, and my mom said, pick out a souvenir. And I picked out a little miniature Rider-Waite deck. And I was so excited because I don't know how I knew at 10 years old that was a fortune telling deck, but somehow I knew that it was for fortune telling. And I got that little white book out. And of course I was like, I don't even know what to do. So I used to play with them like paper dolls. But I say now, you know, I've been around decks for 50 years, right? But I say spending time as a little girl, just being around those images and being around those cards made them friends to me. Like I knew those cards in a very intimate way. I didn't know them perhaps in the traditional esoteric way, but I knew those characters. So then when I sat down to learn the tarot as in my teens and my 20s, they were very familiar to me. And so it became, you know, a practice it took some time, but because I didn't have a teacher, but I finally figured it out. So so that's my journey. So what I want to say is to people that are young people that are coming up, that are, you know, you guys, first of all, have such a banquet of information out there, but it's like a hometown buffet. If you've ever been to hometown buffet, I don't even know if that restaurant exists anymore. There's some good food and there's some kind of food there. It's like not very good. So I think it's learning and exploring is so important. And you will discover for yourself your own witchcraft practice. You will discover your own path. It should be your own path. And it's through exploration, excuse me.
Yeah, no problem.
So that's my story. There's no one particular moment. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. There's no one particular moment that I can say that was when I like before, because I was always exploring. Even during that time when I was in my teens, I grew up Catholic. I was exploring, you know, the esoteric. For a while, I went to like a born again Christian church. Not many people know that about me, but I had a friend that was into it and she was going, and I really liked my friend. So I would go with her. And I did like the idea that there was this kind of emotional experience there, but it wasn't for me, you know? So I think that it's important that you explore different things, different spiritual paths, you know, not just Wicca or not just paganism or not just whatever kind of witchcraft, but that you try on different things when you're young. I think that's important. And it's a journey. And I think one of the things that I think is the hallmark of an experienced or wise person, a wise woman, a wise man, is that the more you learn, the more you know that you don't know.
Yes.
That you're such a beginner. And I think it's the beginners that sometimes think, oh, I've read one book and I'm an expert, or because it really comes from the ego of wanting to be perceived, because you don't trust yourself. So you want to be perceived as an expert. But really, when you get to be doing it for decades and decades and decades, like I have, I feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much to explore. One lifetime isn't even enough. And I'm just at the beginning too. And the more I explore, it's like finding, but mining for gems. You're going to come into caverns of more gems. And then from there, you're going to find more gems. So you're always going to find new information. You're always going to find new paths to follow. You don't have to follow them all. That's really, I think, for people that are beginning, they get overwhelmed because it's like drinking out of a fire hose with all the information out there. It wasn't in my day. You were scrabbling around trying to find even one piece of information. So I didn't have that experience, but I understand that experience now because there is so much the internet. I mean, there's everything on there. So pick one thing that is you're passionate about, pick one thing that you're intrigued with, pick one thing that speaks to your heart, that speaks to your soul, that lights you up, that lights a fire within you, and then explore that. Try it on, see if it works for you, take what works for you, what doesn't work for you, you can leave. And then from there, you're going to find something else, but just focus on one thing at first. Yeah.
Yes, it is true. When you are starting out, yes, you do get overwhelmed. Um, yes, because I remember just like you were talking about the tarot cards. Um, I used to get intimidated by looking at them because not only is the right, I had the Rider-Waite one too, the original, right? And the art was just so like just so beautiful, right? Just so well done on each card. Like, how did they do this with 78 cards, right? And you're just kind of like, it's so beautiful, and it's like not just the meaning that's in the book. You're kind of like, there's got to be a meaning like behind all this artistry, right? And like, and it's kind of like everyone, everyone does have like, a story. Everyone is like a character. Everyone is like a friend. I'm not gonna lie. I still see like the page of wands, right, as like that one like friend, it could be male or female, that is just waiting for you to break up with someone that just kind of like slides in your DMs, right? Like I still think of that card that way. Like no matter what deck I'm using, right? No matter how fancy they make his shoes look or his color of his coat, I'm just kind of like, listen, I know what you're about. I know why you're here, right? It's like, no matter what, it'll always be the same to me, right? So it's kind of like I have, just like you said, I pretty much put everybody the same, like the Page of Pentacles, right? To me, I'm just like, that's the friend that just can't keep a job, right? Or it's kind of like, it's like you who just can't decide on something, and you just like, you've juggled everything possible, and now you're kind of left with zero, or you're just left with very little because you made like a silly mistake and you're looking all crazy and disheveled. Like it's kind of like, they are like, I grew up in the hood. Okay, I grew up in Camden, New Jersey. I'm not familiar, but if you ever watched a documentary about poverty, we were on it. Okay, I think they even drove by my school one time with a camera. Okay, and like I would associate the cards with people I see in the hood, right? I just be like, there goes Anthony trying to slide in my DMs. So, and then whenever I try to read for myself, mind you, I was already an adult at this time. I was 17. And I was just kind of like, even though I was that, 17, I was just kind of like, I don't know, like he kind of gives me like, Mike around the corner vibes. You know what I mean? Like he's like, time this card shows up, I got a feeling that someone's trying to take money from me. Like if you feel like, yeah, if you feel like they're speaking to you, it's almost like the universe is like, it's like giving you like a telephone with each card. Like, it's just speaking, speaking, and speaking, and speaking.
I think you're just coming up with your tarot deck, which is the, from around the block deck or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Like you got to do the hood deck. and have all
I
these
don't want
characters on there.
I don't want to. I just couldn't. Like, I think it would be so inappropriate if I were to make it completely real, right? Because like the hood has so many people, even good people, but it's just kind of like that friend that's always telling you about their dreams, but they don't actually pursue those dreams. Like, I would consider that to be the Page of Pentacles. It's kind of like, what other get rich scheme do you got going on that ain't making you any money? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, all right, I'll see
yeah.
you later, Fred. Okay, bye, Fred.
I love that. I love
Tomorrow
that.
was something different, But when that card shows up for me, I'm just kind of like, oh, maybe I'm involved in something that maybe ain't gonna go nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, so when that shows up, I'm just kind of like, maybe this job is not going to be as fulfilling as I thought. So I do resonate with what you said when it's like they are like your friends. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry I got so graphic, but I mean, I'm talking like I used to talk when I was in the hood. Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that's how you have to talk to people. Like, it's kind of they don't understand it. Well, back in the '90s, anyway. How about that? Okay, back in the '90s, if you didn't have a rough voice, like you were totally getting your lunch money taken from you, right? And that's not just from kids. Okay, it'd be Reggie. It'd be like he got his got Robert's Robbie. You know what I mean? So like they are like friends, but also when you see yourself, in the place like a poverty-stricken hood, you can almost see all those relationships that you have, good or bad, with the real people in your life. It's still like this beautiful connection where it's kind of like they all have this lesson to teach you, right? It's almost like everyone's in like I call it like the world card because I consider the world card like a washing machine that never goes off. Like it just keeps going and going and going, right? So it's kind of like every time you see Reggie, he's always got some scheme. No matter what day, what year it is, it's always the same with him. And then every time you see Regina, like she's always got some man that she's broken up with, but she's like, distressed about or whatever. And then you just got the nerdy friend that's always finding something. I would consider that like the Page of Cups. It's kind of look what I found. I consider that cup with the look what I found cup. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that nerdy friend is kind of like, I didn't know they glue in the dark. You know what I mean? He just like, dude, like, what are you doing up at 3 o'clock in the morning calling me? You know what I mean? Like, cause the Page of Cups is such a youthful, young, naive, person where it's just kind of like everybody's up at 2 a.m. No, they're not. So
Yeah.
everyone has that family member. Everyone has that friend. It's kind of like, we're all sleeping, right? Like,
They're so
the
they're
phone
on
wasn't going to
another
answer.
planet, right? I
So,
love
like, you know what I mean? And that's like, I would love to do that. Like, honestly, you just gave me an idea because that is something that I've been afraid to do for a long time, right? Because I do feel like where I'm from, there really is not, a lot of spiritual things that speak to, the
exactly,
urban community.
exactly. I
At
think
least not in.
this is a
I know. Look
great,
at
great
that.
idea.
You brought it out of me. Look at that. I didn't even know that was there.
Well,
But
there's a lot of art that has been really about, I think like In the Heights, In the Heights movie, right? Beautiful movie, beautiful music, but it's about living that life and the neighborhood, and all of that. And the characters in the neighborhood. You could have 78 characters in the neighborhood and have,
oh
for
yeah,
sure, for sure. And each one of those cards reflect that would be such a beautiful thing. And you know them already. Like you have already said, the Page of Pentacles is this, the Page of Wands is this person. So maybe that's your project. You don't have to be an artist, you can get another artist to do it. You just have to come up with the concept. So
what have you done? You brought it out of me. Oh my god, I had no plan of that. Now I'm like rolling up the carpet. Like I have so many ideas now. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna be able to sleep now. But I appreciate definitely encouraging that because yeah, because I mean I was just like just relating it to what you said because obviously your neighborhood in how the card resonate with you see that in your world. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It makes sense to you in your world, and it's like the universe kind of has this way of like you know not only through tarot, right? Also through, other forms of divination such as mediumships and dowsing and, rune reading, where it's almost like the universe has like all these tentacles where it's kind of like it just won't let us go. right? We
Yeah.
might feel like we're alone, we might feel like we're not being heard, but the universe is kind of like, no, 1111, no, 555, like, no, you dropped three pennies, stuff like that. And, the server's name is Rose, the same name as your aunt. You might want to call her. I just feel like we're always being poked on the shoulder, like, excuse me, you're not alone, so like, one of the biggest things in, like, the youth community is feeling alone, right? The amount of, what is it, just not being heard, a lot of abuse, that goes unseen, unheard, unreported, or, just feeling as though, like, life doesn't give you any space at all, right? Because it's kind of like, once you are, what is it, you're 10, 12, you're still just a kid. But then when you hit that 13 to 17 mark, people are now preparing you to be an adult, which is what you have to do, obviously. But there's really no, like, my theory is there really is no time for you to be yourself when you are living. You're a baby, you're dependent on your parents, you have to listen to your parents. And then when you're not listening to your parents, you're listening to your teachers. And then when you're not listening to your teachers, you're listening to every other adult in your life. And then once you become an adult, now you're listening to your boss, now you're listening to your spouse, now you're listening to, parent teacher, people talking about you and your kids. It's like, when in life do we actually just, like, listen and be ourselves, or just do things for ourselves? Because it's like we're, like, you know what I mean? It feels like a cage almost, but it's like the universe is so beautiful in that way, where it still can find holes in that cage to still grab you and still say, hey, this cage is an illusion, just letting you know I'm still here, I'm still in control of things, so I don't know if, I don't remember where I was going with this, but um, I'm
Talking
just
about being
saying.
kids, talking about being kids. I mean, I think back to when I was, in high school, when I was in high school, which was a very different time. Oh my God, such a different time, right? But I think, what we have to do, even as young people, is we have to find our spaces where we can be authentic. Either that's being by ourselves, which can sometimes feel lonely, or finding our group, finding our like-minded souls, finding our flock, the people who, like, I hung out with the artists and the musicians and the weirdos and the gay kids and the, anybody that was kind of like creative, interesting, fun, playful, but not the cool kids. I wasn't gonna, I could try really hard to be a cool kid, but I wasn't gonna make it. So I was hanging out with the people who got me and loved me. And I think that's so important when you're young, is to find the people who get you. If it's one person, if it's two people, to find those friends who really get you, because then there's the place you can be yourself. When you're older, like me, this is the thing, oh man, I'm dealing with right now. As my parents have passed, of course, and I feel like I'm it, man. I got kids relying on me. I've got a business. I've got employees relying on me. I'm at the other end of the spectrum. Instead of people telling me what to do, more or less, I mean, I feel like nobody's taking care of me. I want to be taken care of, right? I'm a single mom, you know? So I long for that. And I miss that maybe idealized time of childhood when there was always somebody who was paying your rent, giving you
Yeah.
food fully, putting a
Yes.
roof over your head and all that. And I didn't have to do it. But it's just another, I also remember, oh, but then you had the parents bossing you around and you didn't get to really do and be yourself as much as you would have liked. So, we can idealize everything. When you're a kid, you idealize, when I'm growing up, when I'm 18, I'm going to move out and I'm going to be my own person. But you're right. It's not, there's other responsibilities that you have. So yeah, you got to find those people that get you. That's the main thing. It may be your family if you're lucky, but if it's not your family, you find those friends that get you, and that's it. That's your new family for sure.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, I always loved, like, the original saying of, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. and people kind of like mix it up and say, oh, blood thicker than water is about family, but it's it's always said wrong,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of like, no, it's actually this, because now it's 2024. We should start getting the real quote. Um, Turns out that family sometimes can suck, but um, we still love them, but we just can't go to Thanksgiving anymore, right? Because Christmas gets weird, right? And then and then when you start saying things like Ostera, they kind of staring at you. So I'm just kind of like, I don't want that. So I'm just kind of like, I'm just gonna leave my gifts here, and you guys can text me, right? So it's more like making it beautiful, not making it lonely, making it beautiful. Um, Another reason why I'm very interested in you in particular is because I did in fact know that you were a Cancer, right? And for some reason, it's kind of like I attract so many Cancers, right? I don't know what it is. I might be so rigid, and everyone's just like, "Oh, she needs a hug." I was just like, "Yeah, I do, but maybe like at another time,
No,
not
you
right
know what it
now."
is? Oh my gosh, you know what it is? Earth, when we look at the astrology, there's earth, air, fire, and water signs, right? Water signs and water signs will understand each other. Earth signs and earth signs will really get each other. But earth and water and fire and air, which are kind of like these compatible yin yang energy, I always say that earth and water is like, you know how if the earth is dry and then it rains and then the earth can blossom, right, with that rain. And likewise for the water sign, it's like we're water sloshing out everywhere. We need to have a clay pot that holds us in one place, that holds space for us. So what earth does for water is to give us a sense of security. And what water does for earth is like, come out and play. Let's have some fun. Let's do so that you don't have to be working Capricorns. You work so hard. And, it's like you're always building your empire, but there's got to be some work play balance, work life balance. And so the water sign will come on, let's go frolic around it like mermaids, let's go play. Let's have some imagination. Let's have some fun. So I always love my earth sign. I have very, very, very wonderful close friends who are earth signs and my partner, he's an earth sign. So, earth signs around are like, oh, I can be my emotional self. I can be my, crazy self. But like my partner, he's always like, okay, I'm here. I'm not changing. And I need that not changing. I don't want someone that's like, I'm having a meltdown and they're having a meltdown. I don't know. It's please just be the secure person that I can have that meltdown and you are going to not judge me and just hold space for that meltdown. And when I'm ready for my hug after my meltdown, you'll be there to give me that hug. So that's why we talk to each other. Yeah. Yeah.
And my best friend is a Cancer. She's actually my neighbor, and she's gonna be 60 this year too. And like I say she's my adopted mom, but I adopted her. I chose her because like there were so many other people to choose from, and I was like, I need her, but she's gonna give me hugs, right? It's like she knows I'm crazy and doesn't judge me, right? And then she just kind of like wipes the tears. It's kind of like, do you need some chocolate? Are you done? So my sister actually, my sister is a Cancer as well, and she is very artistic, and very fun. And when we were kids, I was just kind of like, I think she needs like medicine, right? Because I'm just like, there's stuff happening in that other room over there, and I don't know if she's okay. You know what I mean? Like she just be coming out like, oh, just covered in stuff, hair, just like crazy all the time. Not crazy, but like no, she changed the color of her hair like every week. It'd be yellow, then green, and blue. And I was like, how do you have the confidence to be yourself? Like how does that work? So I do envy Cancers a lot because it's kind of like we just do things. And I'm just like, but how? People are looking at you, they're judging you, they're thinking about you. They're not gonna like that, and then they're gonna not do stuff. Like Capricorns are just like, like Melmans from, Madagascar. Okay. Like just like, but people are judging us. We can't do it.
Oh, that we can go very deep on that because Capricorn, always, I mean, the weakness of Capricorn is wanting to be perceived like a good citizen, right? Like the upright citizen, right? And so the weakness of Capricorn is I can't show my weird self because it's not what society says is appropriate. So I love that you have purple hair. I love that you're letting your freak flag fly, that you're letting it out, because that shows that you're overcoming that weakness of Capricorn. The weakness of Cancer is to be like, I'm just going to be a puddle of tears and I'm going to cry all the time and just be completely an emotional wreck. And we have to overcome and find joy, like to overcome that wallowing in the emotions. Like, oh, that is no fun for anybody, not at least of all the Cancer who's experiencing it.
Or do you mean when you call your friend 3 times in a row and then after the 4th attempt you realize you're not going to answer? Like, every Cancer I know does that, right? I know they're thinking about calling me a 4th time, but they realize it's kind of like, all right, maybe I'll be all right.
They need to call another Cancer that's going to listen to them,
Right.
listen to them and counsel them. I mean, Cancers are like really male, female, whatever, are the moms, right? The moms, the really good moms, like the moms that will bake you some cookies. It's okay, honey. Everything's going to be okay. Listen to you, remind you that everything's going to be okay. I mean, I used to say I'm the Virgo whisperer, another earth sign, Virgos, because my Virgo friends would be spinning with all the anxiety and I could like talk them down. I was like, I'm a Virgo whisperer. I love it.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's a really, really fascinating. When you get air and fire are really interesting. I mean, air and fire are like, think about oxygen feeding the flames and how those two really can ignite things. But it's harder for those signs to get together with earth and water. So it's not that it's impossible, but you've got to, it's like meeting somebody that's like an alien from another planet sometimes, and you have to learn their language and their customs of Venus, or whatever. So yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, when it came to your like mediumship, like when, I know you said there isn't a specific day, but like I know at some point you realize that you're able to channel the other side,
Yeah.
right? You're able to speak with both worlds, almost feeling like a revolving door, like a physical revolving door. So I just wanted to ask you about that. Like, when did you feel your strongest? When did you even have a suspicion that it was you communicating and that you were not crazy? Like, when you just realized, like, this it can't be, it's too consistent, right? That's what I want to know about.
Well, I think one of the interesting things is, for me, as many people are learning, you have self-doubt. And because there was so little information that was out there, I remember thinking clairvoyance was it, right? That's, you have to see things. You have to see things. And if you don't see things, then you're not psychic, right? And I am a clairsentient and I'm a claircognizant. Those are my two natural clairs. And clairsentient means you feel like bodily sensations or you feel emotions. Claircognizance is you have an inner knowing. You just know it like as if it was on the front page of the paper or you saw it right there, So those two are not so much talked about as clairvoyance, which is clear seeing something in your mind's eye or visually seeing something, or clairaudience, which is hearing in your mind's ear, hearing something like words, right? So for me, I would have hunches, intuitions, sensations in my body, but I didn't know that those were messages, right? So it wasn't until I started learning about that there were these other modalities, and then I was like, oh, well, these two are my natural ones. I know how to do these, but I guess I don't do the other ones. And then I had a wonderful friend, Miss Melinda, who's wonderful. She's amazing. And she's like, no, you can learn clairvoyance. And I'm like, really? And we did some sessions together. And now it clicked for me. So whatever clair you are, whatever your intuition, how it shows up, I think that's your channel. to talking to the other side. So for me, I'll walk in a room and get a sensation. I might not get a clear picture of Uncle John or, Aunt Susie, but I had a ghost in my house and I knew there was a ghost there. I knew there was a ghost there. I felt the ghost there. I would hear things. So that was the other thing, but I never saw the ghost. But I could sense that ghost, like there was a presence, and I knew where that ghost was. And I knew, because I was clairsentient, I knew what the ghost was feeling. She was older woman. She was fine. She just wandered around. She wasn't bothering anybody. She wasn't angry or upset. But then one day she got very agitated. And that's when I knew just instinctively that I could tell her, look, you're trapped kind of between worlds. Your spirit is here in the material world, but you don't live in the material world anymore. You can go to the other side. And just, I don't know why I knew or how I knew, because I never had learned it from anybody. But then I did some ritual, just sort of instinctively did some ritual and released that spirit. And then she was able to go. Later, I come to find this is like psychopomp work. This is shamanic work. This is spirit work, that you help spirits go to the other side. So I think that one thing that is very validating is knowing that it doesn't have to be like, you are very gifted in seeing spirits, right? I don't see spirits, but it doesn't mean that I don't have the experience doesn't mean that I don't have the experience just because I'm laughing because we're on Zoom and all of a sudden these fireworks went off because I did some weird hand gesture, and there's this thing now, you do hand gestures and it shows pictures. But, just because, people, I think another example of that is that younger people grew up with their magic understanding of magic, their introduction to magic being what was your introduction in pop culture to magic, right? Harry Potter. I'm sure Harry Potter was part of your world, was it?
Actually, it wasn't. To be honest, it actually wasn't.
Oh, good.
I'm going back to the 90s, talking about the craft.
Oh, the craft. Okay, the craft. So the craft actually has some authentic stuff, but the younger ones than you grew up on Harry Potter. The ones that are in their 20s, Generation Z, they grew up on Harry Potter. So I think sometimes people who are introduced to magic through Harry Potter are thinking, I point a wand at something and magic happens instantly. But I have to say the words exactly right. If I say the words wrong, then something bad is going to happen. So what I found in teaching magic to people is that they go, but what if I do this? And what if I do that? I go, it's like a recipe. It's like cooking, right? If you put 5 cups of water in your pot to cook your spaghetti instead of 6, you'll still be fine, right? But if you put oil instead of water, that's a problem,
Right.
So it's like understanding that you have leeway with magic, that magic spells, you can craft your own magic spell, which is why when I wrote the book of candle magic, I wrote it to teach people how to craft their own spells, not a recipe book. Because a recipe book doesn't teach you anything. It gives you the directions to do that dish. But when you go to cooking school or you become a chef, you learn, I can open the fridge, I can look at all the things that are in there, and I can figure out, I can bring this with this and this and this, and I can make a dinner tonight. That's like your grandma who's been cooking her whole life knows how to do that, right? So the same thing with magic. So people get because of that Harry Potter effect, they think, when I do a spell, why am I not seeing immediate results?
Right.
That's not how magic works most of the time. Sometimes we see an immediate result, but that's not how it works. And the second thing is, if I say it wrong, or if I do one thing wrong, is it going to backfire on me? I have been around long enough around magic, decades and decades, 50 plus years around magic, to know that spells do not backfire. You either do a spell and it works, or you do a spell and nothing happens. If you do a love spell and you do it quote unquote wrong, you're not going to be sent into a vortex of never finding love. That person isn't going to hate you because you did the spell wrong. This is a concept that came from these pop culture, goofy things where someone does it wrong. So that we, sometimes as a teacher, we have to undo the people's beliefs about magic that they've picked up from fantasy and stuff like that. So yeah. I didn't answer your question at all, did I? About when did I
You
doing it?
might have. I was just getting so into it. I was just like, you could have. I mean, I have to rewind it, but I mean, but I was just, yeah. It was just more like, when did you realize that you just went crazy? Just when you realize that you just.
Well, I think I was always more thinking, instead of thinking I was crazy, because I grew up in in a very artistic kind of world with people that were making art and music, and it was punk rock was happening at the time. So people did whatever they wanted to do and they were very free, but I also kept my practice very private. I wasn't out. I was very private. I kind of did my own thing, but I only shared with my very inner circle. So what was more of an issue for me was not thinking that I was crazy, because I knew that what I was doing was right for me and I was exploring, but was confirming things because I didn't have role models or information that told me I was doing magic. I didn't know, for example, that I was having intuitive hits when I'd have these physical sensation, or walk into a room and sense something, or because I thought it had to be, you saw a ghost, or you had to hear a clear voice saying, Pamita, I am from the other side telling you to go buy a lottery ticket today. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think I also had to overcome those beliefs that maybe came from pop culture in my time, to understand that there's actually, and to find those people that were teaching, and those teachers that were saying like, oh no, you're clairvoyant, you're not clairvoyant, but you're claircognizant, or clairalient, or clairaudient, or whatever. So that's what I needed, was I did the things, but I didn't know that they were a thing, right? So it's confirmation more than because I just did whatever I wanted to do. It's my private world, who cares, right? So yeah.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I'm just very fascinated. Um, are you willing to share a time where a spell, quote unquote, didn't work, but like it worked, but you did one misstep and it showed?
Oh, I think of it more being like, when I was younger, I used to do love spells, but I would do a real binding love spell, right? So I would do a love spell so that guy would fall in love with me, right? I wanted that guy to be crazy about me. And it worked, right? But then I'm with him and I'm like, I'm not really that into him. I want to break up. And he would hound me to come back. And I can think of one particular instance, this guy, fire and water, a Leo and a Cancer together. That's a tough combo. Not that it can't, but that's a tough combo. He would go, he was smart. I don't know how, he was probably pretty magical too. He knew the way to get a Cancer to come back to you is say, you're breaking my heart. And then the Cancer, the Cancer goes, I don't want to break anybody's heart. Okay, we can try again. We can try again. And I did that like 3 or 4 times with him. And I'm just like, I can't get rid of this guy. So I had to do a spell to like disconnect him so he could get over me. So it worked too well. So what then I learned from that is like, oh, maybe don't go after the particular person in your spell, but open it up to invite the best person, or the most the person you're gonna make each other the happiest, is a much better spell than going after Johnny, Yes. So that's the spell that worked too good, and it quote unquote backfired because it worked too good, and the intention was to get this guy to be crazy about me. And then when I didn't want him to be crazy about me, he was still crazy about me. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So, most of the time when you do, it's interesting because I think spells work, and spells work, not that they work in ways that trick you. I mean, there could be trickster energy around a spell that teaches you something. I mean, that spell taught me something for sure. But I think about like spells that you do and then you don't see a result, right? And the worst thing that you can do is say, my spell didn't work. because that spell may need to marinate for a while.
Right.
And when you're doing, I've done many spells where I've seen the result maybe sometimes 5 years later. But it's because things have to line up for you to get to this big dream that you have. So while you can say like, oh, I want to have, a giant corporation of, witchcraft supplies or whatever, it probably isn't going to happen in a week. You have to build up to that, as a practical Capricorn, you have to build up to that. But if you have a big spell with a big dream, let it marinate. And if you have a sense of like, nothing's really happening around that right now, then maybe try another different kind of spell around the same topic. Keep giving it energy. But what you don't want to do is say my spell didn't work, because guess what? From your perspective, you're watching a movie and you're seeing the scene right in front of you. But spirit knows the whole movie, the beginning, the ending, and the middle, and everything. And what you're aiming for may be coming up around the corner. But if you say my spell didn't work, you just undid your work right there. So.
No, I totally agree. And I know, I sound far away, right?
Yeah.
It happened again. I told you, like, it's AirPods and Android devices. They don't want to.
It might sound good on your end in your recording. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? But
Can you hear me now?
no, still distant. Yeah.
I don't even know which button to press.
That's why I'm an old lady with wires on everything. I don't have Bluetooth on my mics.
Listen, I couldn't have.
Look at me. Here's my earbuds. Oh, there's my earbuds.
Those are the ones
I got a wired mic. Still distant sounding.
I'm trying to think. If I do it with one AirPod, maybe it'll work better.
It still sounds far away.
Let's see if I can just do the charge. It's like when you tap on these, it changes like the volume or frequency or whichever. Any better? I really don't know. I have an idea.
Now, I think it's
Can you
working.
hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. So I'll totally edit that part out. I wanted to share with you one of my epic fail spells. Only because I really love that story that you just told me. Right? Because I was just like, oh, I'm not the only one, thank God. Okay. And I'm so sorry that it was a Leo. I'm sorry. I just want to say I'm sorry you had to go through that. Because my ex-husband is a Leo and I know what you went through. Okay. I know what you went through. And I'm so glad you're still able to smile after the fact. Yeah, because Leos, I don't know about them. Anyway, I should have played the matching game a little bit better, knowing that fire and earth don't match. But like I saw him, he was tall, he had blue eyes, and I was like,
gorgeous, okay. Right? Leos are often very charismatic and beautiful. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I was just like, I don't mind having, kids that look like porcelain dolls. I'll do that. Um, uh, so I did a love spell as well. It was in fact last year. Okay. And obviously I'm just kind of like throwing a dart into the fog at this point, because I'm just kind of like, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm a single mom too. So I'm just kind of like, I said, I want, if he happens to be like a fireman, or a police officer, because I really do like, men that, have those kinds of jobs. And I was not very specific. Okay. And I should have been, because I would say about 7 days later, I get into the shower and one of my kids accidentally sets the pizza box in my stove on fire. Right? And you would think this would be unrelated, but then who comes to your house right after someone sets a pizza box on fire? Firemen and policemen. Right? But then
it double backfired-ish, right? Worked, but not worked. They were all married.
Okay. Single off-duty firemen or policemen. That's what we need to say.
Because when they left, I was just like, wait a minute. Technically, the spell worked. So that was
wild.
like, all right, next time we'll just get expert guys without rings and without wives.
Yes.
Kind of weird, you know, and we don't want to burn, right? We don't want tragedy to strike, right? So
Exactly. Well, I'm glad everybody was safe. What a scary thing that is. I'm glad everybody was safe. And I'm glad they were there to save you. But yes, you need to have your off-duty singles policemen or firemen.
yeah, we will try harder next time. Very important to be very specific. Yes. Lastly, you know, I wanted to also, you know, talk about real quick about how, you know, the state of the world right now, when it comes to, I know I have the same like rolling eye feeling as well. I don't get political or anything like that, but what I really want to talk about is really the consciousness right now of people, right? The feeling of, you know, a lot of hopelessness that's going on around us right now. You know, people really struggling to be happy right now. And just want to know, like, you know, in what ways do you think that the spiritual community could, you know, combat that? You know, I know we do our thing, you know, doing our best to stay positive. But yes, you know, it's hard to, you can't really, like, you know, change the world, but it's more like, what could we do as a spiritual community to at least make it a better place, considering we are coming out of what, a 40-year, you know, court case win to even make Wicca a religion. You know what I mean? Like 1985 really changed the game for hoodoo, you know, voodoo and all those things, so people don't get harassed at work for bringing their pentagrams in. You know, we're only 40 years in, you know, and now we're dealing with, you know, other cultural differences in the, like, you know, on a mass scale of the world. And the spiritual community is crumbling a little bit, in my opinion, too, because of it, you know. And I would really like to see the spiritual community stay strong, because of the fact that, you know, our knowledge can get lost, you know, entirely, you know, if we allow these, you know, calamities to really take a hold of us, you know, take a hold of, you know, us today, even our youth, you know what I mean? And just like completely erase, you know, all the work we've done, all the things that we believe in, you know, and just remembering our ancestors, period. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that has become mainstream in the last 40 years. That is not a long time. That is so easy to wipe out, even though other traditions and cultures, you know, they're used to doing that. But even those things, you know, written down in history, you know, I feel is being erased as well. So
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like, okay, we have to understand the big part of this and then work down to the little parts. The big part is this. We have to understand that what we are consuming in terms of social media, even media in general,
right,
is designed in a certain way. And there's a design. Their goal is to make money. How do they make money? They make money by selling advertising, right? You're not, well, maybe you pay for your blue check or whatever, but really where they make their money is advertising. That's social media, anything else that we consume, like out there like that, all right? Television, but nobody watches television anymore. But anything that has advertising, that's how they make their money. All right. Understanding that, what gets people, the advertisers will only advertise if people buy.
right.
So how do we get people to buy a new car? Your car's working great, but we need you to buy a new car. So how do we get you to buy a car? Well, we have to make the car look like it's going to make your life better. So the media has to create anxiety, feelings of dissatisfaction, fear, that's a big one, all kinds of depression, because if you're feeling those bad feelings and then you see the car commercial with the happy people on it, you are like kind of lulled into this hypnotism and go, if I buy a Audi, then I'm going to be happy. So I got to get rid of my Chevrolet and get an Audi or whatever, right? I'm just, whatever. So if you understand that game, that anything that is out there to make money is now manipulating you, you can then be selective. Guess what doesn't have advertising? Books don't have advertising. Groups of people getting together don't have advertising, hopefully. All kinds of things don't have advertising. Going for a walk in nature doesn't have advertising.
Right.
Going to school doesn't have advertising. So if you can take yourself out of those environments where they are manipulating you, then you are not manipulatable, right? So I think that much of the sadness that we all feel is because, and the fear that we all feel is because there is definitely manipulation. We're going to, in the news, we're going to highlight the stories that are scary so that people buy the, I don't know, the Twinkies or whatever it is that we're selling that'll make them happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am I'm at times better and worse. I'm not perfect about it, but I am conscious and cognizant of this. And so I am picky about what I consume.
Right.
I try not to indulge too much of the news. I get enough reading about it. I don't want to watch it because watching it is really very intrusive. I don't watch horror movies. I don't say that people can't watch horror movies, but for me, I know it messes with my psychology.
Right.
I don't watch even a lot of like tension dramas right now because I'm so sensitive right now. So I monitor what I take in, and I am a little picky. Now, that doesn't mean I don't doom scroll. Sometimes I doom scroll, but then I start to feel bad, or I start to feel activated and super angry, and I'll get on there and say something to a bot. I'm sure I'm talking to a bot half the time, and I'll mouth off. And I'm like, is this really what I want to do with my time? Because this isn't really helping me, and it's not changing anything.
Right.
So I think if you are feeling, disconnected, if you are feeling sad, if you are feeling anxious, because I have anxiety, so I know this, and I can feel low. I don't say I have official depression, but I can definitely feel sad and low. I have to treat what I consume mentally and what I consume through my senses, just like eating a healthy diet. If I eat McDonald's every day, I'm going to feel like crap. If I'm looking at the news every day, I'm definitely going to feel like crap. And if I start feeling myself slipping into that anxiety, into that fear, because right now we're in an election cycle, and so there's a lot of fear coming from both sides. I'm a full-on progressive liberal, and I am proud of it. I will always be. I don't care if I'm 90 years old, I'm going to be lefty, lefty, lefty. That is me.
Same here.
So, but the left learned from the right, because the right was fear mongering and they got people activated, and who got into office. So they're like, okay, we got to create some tension and anxiety so that people get out and vote, that the people that are liberal get out and vote. And I'm like, ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot for me. And even though I agree with you, I still think the fear is too much for me. So I do what I do, which is I go and vote, I get active, go to marches, do my thing. I know that those things are, and I do, activism, raising funds, just do the things, but I do things that are real grassroots things. Because to me, I want to connect to people. I want to donate to people. I want to raise funds for people. And so I'm lucky enough to find those things. And so I think what we want to do is, if you feel a certain way, and I think I'm old, so I don't care about, compare and despair. But I think that for young people, especially for young women, even young men, but for young women, we're told our value is how we look. And so if you're looking at people that are AI'd out and filtered out, and you're like going, well, gosh, I don't look as cute as her, I don't feel so good about myself, then you have to also watch that and maybe be more selective about what you consume. Maybe read a book, maybe watch a movie with real looking people in it instead of super glamorous movie stars. So be pickier about what you consume will always help your mental health. I'm not perfect at it. Like I said, I doom scroll too.
Nobody is.
I get mad, I get mouthy, I get put in, Instagram jail or threatened with Instagram jail. So now I'm getting smart. It's funny because now I'm like saying things that I want to say, but I'm using fancy big words. So I can still be sassy, but the algorithm doesn't know I'm being sassy. So whatever. But I think that's the antidote to this. We went through COVID, which was horrible, such a horrible time. But we should now come back out of it into real spaces as much as possible, and to really be mindful of our mental health by watching our own mental state and our emotional state when we consume certain things. If it makes you feel better, then and you can have some of that. If it makes you feel worse, that's probably, you need to limit that. Doesn't mean you can never do it, but do something else instead, Pretty simple.
Right. Now, I wanted to ask you, the new tarot movie that's coming out. Did you see that? Yes.
It's a horror movie, not my
yes.
thing, not my thing. I think it's funny and silly, whatever, that tarot is now a thing. I actually kind of, honestly, so I've been alive long enough that I was alive when Ouija boards were just a fun game in your house.
Yes.
I had a Ouija board in my house. When you look at old movies, TV shows, you can look at I Love Lucy. She pulls out a Ouija board and everyone's like, oh, it's a kooky, fun thing. It wasn't until The Exorcist came out in 1974 and she conjured the devil with the Ouija board. And then all the televangelists got on board of like, yes, this is evil. This is evil. Before that, it was actually a quasi-Christian thing because spiritualists were quasi-Christian. And it wasn't until The Exorcist that this became demonic. So prior to that time, it's like, oh, you're talking to Aunt Matilda, you're just doing a cute, quirky, funny thing, but it's all within this light, love and light thing. And it was that media that changed it. So great. So guess what? Christians are going to be all up in arms about tarot cards. Great. I could really give a rat's ass what any Christian thinks about me at this point. So, I mean, I'm all in. It's like, I am everything that they don't like. I'm a feminist. I'm a liberal. I'm a witch. I'm a mouthy woman. I believe in reproductive rights. I believe in equality. I believe in uplifting people that have been marginalized. So listen, they can't hurt me anymore because I'm everything they hate. So great. I'm everything they hate. So now they're going to hate another thing about me. Good. I'll have a bunch of people coming on my feed going, you're going to go to hell. And I'm going to go, I don't believe in hell. So guess what?
Right. I'm just going to be like, are you going to be there? Or if you're not going to be there, I mean, I'll totally go, that's cool, but yes, you are a woman after my own heart. Real. Because that's definitely what I was.
Just be you. This is what happens when you get to be a crone. This is the joy of being a crone. The older you get, the less you give a crap about what anybody thinks. So I'll show up to your show with my was in a wig yesterday, ratty looking hair, no makeup on. I'm fine, whatever. I just said, hey man, I hope this isn't being recorded, but if it is, whatever. You get to a point where you accept yourself. I would call that it's not that it's not caring, it's self-acceptance. Right. So as you age, the more self-acceptance. What I love seeing is young people having self-acceptance because they're way ahead of the curve than I was at teenage and 20s. I was like, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this. We
that's
didn't have that. Yes. So all you young people out there that are self-accepting, that are proud of your body shape, who you are, everything about you, who you are, You're going to be badass crones when you get to my
Yes, because that's exactly the goal, is to accept yourself now. Do it now. That's where the power lies. And that's where the social media and all the, fake witchy aesthetic, that's where it fails you. It's really the inner stuff.
Yeah.
It is being, it is being that teenager again, saying that I know what I'm doing. This is who I really feel like I am, and then, 20 years from now, you find yourself saying that again. So accept it now, understand that's who you are. And it's okay. Like, it literally is. Like, there are two women right now on a podcast, over the age of 30 with purple hair talking about talking about witchcraft and candles. Like, I'm just telling you, it gets better.
It
Okay.
gets
And it's
better.
such
It
a
does get
great
better.
life. But it could have been, like, a lot of the struggles could have been avoided if we just literally took our 17-year-old selves and said, listen, I'm going to eat this donut. I'm going to get fat because that's how I'm going to look in 30 years anyway. I'm going to be healthy, right? I don't have diabetes or anything, but it's like, listen, I like bacon and I'm going to do it. I like tarot cards. These cards are speaking to me. That guy over there, he's dead. I can see him. Okay. Like, you need to call your mom. I feel something's off. Okay. Like, you're not crazy. Like, you have a gift. The universe gave it to you on a silver platter. Open it up as many times as you need to, at least, for the betterment of yourself and the betterment of others, people you love, and understand that, it is the self-love that really is driving everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's everything you just said.
Yeah.
That's the goal,
You
right?
don't, and if you're for everyone, then you are not for yourself. You got to
No,
be you,
absolutely not.
and you don't have to be for everyone. And
Right.
so I think that's one thing that the social media is not great at, because we're looking at numbers, how many people are following, how many people are liking. If you are that bland that everybody likes you, you are bland and you are not real. Really, that's what I say. You have to be for you, and your people are going to find you. And I would much rather have 100 people who get me than 100,000 people who are just like, oh, she's funny or whatever, So yeah. On that note, are we ready to wrap up?
One last question. Yep, and I'm wrapping up. Yes.
Okay.
Last thing is, your oldest clients, right? Your oldest clients, would you consider them like your best friends now, or like family?
Oldest meaning longest client. I'm thinking like
yeah,
old
sorry.
age.
Sorry. No, I'm not like that. That's not what I meant. Yes,
I'm thinking about all these wonderful women in their 70s and 80s, and I do have some. My oldest clients, I have what I call client friends. I do have client friends. So if I have a relationship with my clients, and I have some wonderful, sweet clients that really it's like in that area where like if I'm in town, like I have one that's in New York, and when I'm in town, I go see her, we hang out. We might grab a bite or something like that. So when you have clients, I mean, I've been doing this for decades and decades. So when you have people that you've been doing this for, and you have that regular get together, or you talk, you do have friends. And you know what the best thing is? Events like conventions and things like that. I cannot overstate how the difference was, because I was going to conventions and then COVID hit and we were doing everything virtual, but it's not the same. Because when you are in real spaces with people, you have side conversations, you meet with people, you develop friendships. And so also too, many of these conventions that I go to, I'm going to be going to New York end of April. I'm going to be going to New York for Reader Studio, which is a tarot convention. I'm going this weekend coming up to Phoenix for I Can Do It, which is the Hay House publisher convention, which is more new agey. But these conventions are places where you meet like-minded souls. So if you're young and in school, you probably aren't going to a convention, but you can have a club at school, maybe a club that's about, something that you're interested in metaphysically even, or You know, if you're in your 20s or your 30s, you know, going to shops, you know, used to be the place. So going into real spaces with people. So I do a lot of readings online, but I also do readings in person, and I have developed friendships. Sometimes it's not even the oldest ones. You meet a like-minded soul and you like immediately, like I have a client that I've seen twice and I'm like, we're hanging out, you know,
Yes.
because we're like match, you know.
Yes.
And you know, then there's, you know, there's clients that I've had for years and years and years that we now have like a personal relationship. So yeah, there's a wonderful, wonderful client. And then other witches that are practicing. Oh my gosh, so many of those that I love. So like you, next time we're at a thing together, you know, we'll be hanging out. So yeah.
I would definitely love to meet you in person for sure. Like,
Come to
you are
Reader
very
Studio. Come to Reader Studio.
inspirational.
It's right down the road. It's in like it's in the boroughs. It's like in near LaGuardia. It's like in the airport by LaGuardia, and it's the end of April.
I will find a way. I will find a way. Trust me, if I'm ambitious enough, I will find it.
I know you will. You're Capricorn. You can
My
move
head will
mountains.
probably be there. My head will probably still be on the bus somewhere. I'll find a way to get there. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for this talk. I learned so much from you. I continue to be inspired by you. I really appreciate your time, you know, and just everything you have, just everything. Like, you're funny, you know, you're beautiful, you're so much fun, you know, and you're very carefree, and you love yourself, and it radiates, you know. And that's what we could all hope for everyone to have, especially, you know, anyone that is looking to, you know, start this, you know, spiritual journey, which I'm going to tell you is an awesome journey. It's almost like you're going through your own house, right? For the very first time, and understanding why things are where they are, kind of thing. But you continue to be an inspiration to me. I'm really glad that I found you. I'm really glad of a lot of things. Like, I just show gratitude. Just, I can't even name everything that I'm grateful for right now in this very second. So, you know, is there any like last comments that you wanted to, you know, say, or any questions you have for me? And just anything else that you wanted to touch on, because I know your time is precious.
I haven't had dinner yet. I'm hungry. That's why.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I gotta go home
Sorry.
and make some dinner. The last thing I want to leave you with, and really anybody that's listening, because I know your audience is young audience, and one of the best exercises you can do, whether it's about your magical practice, witchcraft, or whatever you're doing, or even just your life, right? Do a visualization. And in your visualization, you're going to time travel and go 20 years in the future. And you're going to meet your inner teacher. But your inner teacher is you in 20 years. All right? So you imagine Christina when she's 50, whatever, right? Where is she living? What is she doing for a living? What's her life like? Who's in the house with her? What does her house look like? What is she wearing? You go and meet her. Sit down, have a cup of tea, have a cocktail, have a whatever with her, hang out with her. And then ask her a question. How do I get to where you are? And she will tell you. She will tell you. So you imagine yourself in 20 years living your best life, spend some time with yourself there, and then ask her, how do I get here? You will be surprised at the answer you get, and the answer is 100% spot on. So it can be about anything, right? If you imagine yourself being a powerful, magical person, right? How did I get to be that? And she will tell you, or he will tell you if that's the case, right? You know, so
yeah. Next time on spells, make sure the guys are single.
That's what she's going to tell you.
Single in the spell. Okay?
But your inner mentor, your inner teacher is always there for you, and she is you in the future, and she will always tell you how to get there. You know, I'll tell you, I did one of these a long, long time ago, and she said, write books. She's not wrong.
Right.
She's not wrong.
I see. So That's a great note to end on. I really love that. You never know, your spirit body could be like, the library you've always wanted to have, that, your 10-year-old self was looking for, the book you were looking for is like, I wrote it, just letting you know, I wrote the book you're looking for. That's a great note to end on. That's amazing. But Madam Pamita, thank you so much for your time. Lovies, I hope you guys got a lot from this experience, besides all of my giddiness and, AirPod misfunctions. But however, I hope you guys enjoyed this. So I will see you guys in the next episode. Again, I'm Christina with Parmesan's Psychic LLC here on Universal Spirit Podcast. And we are now wrapping up our interview with Madam Pamita. And I will see you guys in the next episode. All right, bye, lovies. I'm gonna try to